Good evening, everyone. Welcome to February 6th, 2025 Northampton City Council meeting. I'm Alex Jarrett. I'm City Council President, so I'll be presiding, along with Vice President Rachel Maori, who is participating remotely. This meeting and all participating in person and on Zoom will be audio and video recorded. The meeting can also be watched on Comcast Channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube channel. Call the City Council to order. Laura, could you take the roll, please?
Councilor Dobbs. Here. Councilor Elkins. Hasn't joined yet. Councilor Jarrett.
Here.
Councilor Clemmer.
Here.
Councilor Labarge. And she's not
She's here.
Oh.
I think we can hear you, Marianne, Councilor Labarge. Go ahead. Oh, guess we lost you.
Okay. Councilor is present, I guess. Councilor Maori. Here. Councilor Moulton.
Here.
Councilor Perry.
Here.
And Councilor Rothenberg.
Here.
Yeah, I'll go back one more time for a verbal response. Councilor Labarge?
She may need to be made a co-host.
Yeah, let me do that right now. Here we go. Okay.
Did you say that?
Councilor Labarge, are you able to unmute? Okay, well, we do know she's here. She may.
And did you get Councilor Rothenberg?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, Councilor President, you have a quorum.
Thank you.
Can you hear me, Laura?
We can hear you.
Gotcha.
Tonight's highlights. We have two resolutions, a resolution to adopt the Capital Improvement Program and a resolution calling for full support of the Healthy Incentives Program, or HIP. Public comment. If you wish to make a public comment, you can sign up on the sheet at the podium. If you're on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature, and the raise hand feature is in the bottom menu bar. You click on react and then raise hand. And I don't think we have anyone participating by phone. If you are having trouble raising your virtual hand, you can turn on your video and physically raise your hand. If you want to submit a written public comment, you can email it to citycouncil@northamptonma.gov. It will be sent to all councilors and will be part of the public record. I'll alternate between people in the room and people on Zoom. And before you begin, please state your name and your city or town for the public record. To ensure everyone has an equal opportunity to speak, the council limits comments to a maximum of 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I will ask you to please finish your sentence. According to council rules, we do not respond during public comment, as it is your time to speak. You may speak on any topic. It doesn't need to be an item on the agenda, and all comments are to be directed to the council. And we'll start in the room with Alex Bowman.
Hi, Alex Bowman, Northampton. I've been reading this great book that I brought up previously, which is called When Driving is Not an Option. So something like 30% of Americans are non-drivers. Actually, we're all non-drivers until we get into a car. And it's been a great, as we're repaving roads and adding new sidewalks, it's important to think about not just putting things back in place, but how we do that. So I just wanted to read a quick passage from this book. What non-drivers need, what we all need, is a transformation of the way we organize mobility, housing, and public space so that we have options for getting around that do not rely on driving a car. We need safe, connected places to walk, roll, and ride, transit that is reliable as reliable as driving, and land use and remote access opportunities that reduce how much we have to travel. This transformation can move us away from the most harmful public health and climate impacts of automobility and start to create a more inclusive mobility system. Retrofitting our communities so we can live without car dependency is going to be a profoundly difficult task. It will only be possible if those of us not well served by the current system can organize and can build a big enough coalition to demand change. Just as we transformed our communities in the last 100 years to center and prioritize car movement, in the next 100 years, we can, if we want to, build an entirely different future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Nan. Welcome, Nan.
Welcome. Thank you. Nancy Smith, Chapel Street. Last council meeting, there was a lot of talk about what is or isn't democracy and a lot of attacks. Like the filibuster, a charter objection is a legal tool. It may not always change the courts for a single vote, but it can be the spark that will bring about the changes we desperately need. In a city where councilors paid to represent the people simply fall in line with the mayor's agenda, a charter objection is inspirational to those left out. Like voting to abstain when the outcome would otherwise be 6-3 against, it is a signal that someone hears us and is willing to fight with every tool available to make our voices heard. Working with activists to uncover budget tricks used to underfund our schools, that is democracy and transparency. That is Councilor Rothenberg. Whether fighting gentrification, bad infill, threats to our neighborhood, or fighting for our schools and our most vulnerable children, the inexplicable chaos of council members outright lying, hiding, manipulating data, ignoring our research, then simply voting with the mayor, leaving us nowhere to go for help, that is not democracy or transparency. That is chaos and often heartache for many people in this city. Councilor Rothenberg will fight and compromise, but she will never merely fall in line as councilors did for as long as I've been involved in battles with the city. She is representative government in a city, but it is sorely lacking. Her guts and tenacity inspire others, and we have more councilors willing to make a stand now than ever before. This city needs more like her to make this council the representative government democracy demands it to be. The last thing we need is more yes to power councilors. If council only votes with the mayor, do we really need them in a cash-strapped city? Democracy is hard and messy, but it's worth it, even when it's late, and we're all tired. The six, who refused to even activate their right to add money to the school budget last year, maybe think about it. It's been more than a few days or weeks. It's been a year, and our most vulnerable children are still waiting. Please have every tool ready and available this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Helen Kahn.
Hi, my name is Helen Kahn, and I live in Florence. I'm also the Farmers Market Manager for Grove Food Northampton, and I am here to express support for something, which is probably a welcome relief. I am here to express support for the resolution calling for full support for the Healthy Incentives Program, or HIP, and I also want to express my appreciation for the councilors for bringing this resolution forward. I won't belabor you with all the benefits that HIP provides to our communities in the resolution itself, and I think you've received letters, but it's a fantastic program. Massachusetts was ahead of the curve when they started this, enacted it in 2017, and for whatever reason they underfunded it this year by $10 million. And instead of putting together a supplemental budget, they drastically reduced the monthly benefits to people who are on SNAP to access these fresh, nutritious local foods from our farmers. And so the impacts are already being felt by the farmers and those people who are relying on those healthy foods. And we, as Grove Food Northampton and other farm and food organizations, and the farmers and the people who are on SNAP and need that benefit increased, have been emailing and calling and knocking on the doors of the governor and our legislators, and it seems to have fallen on deaf ears, which is why we need you as representatives of the city of Northampton to add your voices to this chorus. So hopefully they will listen to us and they will put in that extra $10 million. And I think it won't be a surprise to anyone when the federal administration cuts the SNAP benefits, which is going to also increase these drastic negative impacts. And
That was time, if you could finish your sentence.
So anyway, I ask for your support for that resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on Zoom is Becca. Becca, your name and city or town, please.
I'm unable to turn on my video. The host has it turned off. My name is Rebecca Leopold, and I live in Northampton. Oops, there it is, the host just did it, sorry.
Yeah, you should be able to. I don't have that restricted.
I had to wait for the signal, I'm sorry. I couldn't do it without the click. Rebecca Leopold, I'm here to also speak in favor of the resolution for fully funding HIP. The common wisdom that, quote, all politics is local would be very comforting to me in today's world if alas it were absolutely true. But it's certainly reasonable to count on local politics to be a key component of building community and caring for each other. Thus, I am confident in calling upon the City Council to unanimously support the resolution before you tonight to call for fully funding the Healthy Incentives Program known as HIP. At a time when food insecurity is growing in our community, as evidenced by the statistics often provided by the Northampton Survival Center and the Amherst Survival Center, it is unconscionable that the governor's budget cut HIP benefits by at least 50% to $20 per household per month, regardless of household size, from what was a variable of $40 to $80 based on household size. In addition to hurting families that are among the most vulnerable in our community, it also hurts the local economy, particularly the stores and markets, the farmers markets that sell the produce, and the local farmers who produce it. In the Daily Hampshire Gazette on January 13th, Atlas Farm reported HIP and SNAP sales were down 27% in December, the month the cuts went into effect. Moreover, CISA, Community Involved in Sustaining Agriculture, stated that cuts had an immediate negative impact on farmers' sales, as detailed in the resolution before you, and these cuts will add more uncertainty for farmers in an already challenging field. Please pass this resolution, and even more importantly, do whatever you can to put pressure on the governor and the leaders of the legislature. I am confident this funding has the support of our, or my local legislators, but they need all of us to apply pressure so that a supplemental budget is passed as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Eve. Your name and city or town, please.
Hi, my name is Eve Glazier. I live in Northampton, Ward 3, and I'm speaking today to express my real true outrage at the fact that we are continuing to allow a weapons manufacturer, L3 Harris, to operate in our community. Among many of the harmful things that I could point out about them, the L3 Harris Corporation has regularly contracted with U.S. Customs and Border Protection and ICE. The company was highlighted as being, quote, one of the 14 giants in the border security business. And between 2010 and 2023, they held contracts worth at least $154 million with CBP and ICE. Especially given the current administration, we really do not need more tools for committing violence against immigrants. And through research, I've also learned that the L3 Harris KEO branch in Northampton specifically makes periscopes that have been used by the Israeli military against Palestinians, amongst a host of other really harmful applications. If you look at the transcripts of L3 Harris's sales calls, you'll see them delighting in the proliferation of war, militarization, and human rights abuses we've seen this year because it brings in more profits for them. And it's really abhorrent to me that such a violent corporation is operating in our city or anywhere for that matter, and I don't think it's reflective of the values that we share. So I call on city government to use whatever power you have to revoke L3 Harris's ability to operate here. And it's come to my attention that L3 Harris's business certificate granted to them by the city of Northampton expires in April 2025 this year. And so I really, really urge the Northampton city government to not renew that business certificate for another term. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Beth. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Beth Rogers. I'm a resident of Northampton, Ward 4. I'm here today because I find it really disturbing that there is a weapons manufacturer in Northampton. L3 Harris in Northampton has received $600 million worth of military contracts through the Department of Defense. And nationally, L3 Harris is developing technologies that are used to bomb innocent civilians and children in Gaza, and developing surveillance technologies that are contributing to the dehumanizing militarization of the southern border. Having L3 Harris in Northampton does not align with my values, and as a resident, I do not approve their business certificate, and I do not approve the tax breaks that they were granted when they expanded in 2011. I urge the city to revoke their business certificate and any current tax benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tom. Tom, your name and city or town, please.
My name is Tom Bassett. I live in Florence, and I'm speaking tonight to support the resolution to send to the governor to reinstate the benefits. I think it's, again, unconscionable to live in a country like this that has roughly in this area 10% of our neighbors going without food or having food insecurity. HIP and staff benefits can certainly go a long way. I know the Sawgrass Centers of Amherst and Northampton do the best they can, but that's a volunteer organization, and there are many people still not able to get enough food and have to choose every month between food, fuel, medicine. So please send this resolution to the governor and reinstate the cuts that were made to those two HIP program. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Heidi.
Hi, my name is Heidi. I'm a Northampton, a resident of Northampton, Ward 3 in Salvo House. And I just wanted to let the neighborhood know, because I think people need to be aware of this. And I would also particularly like the mayor to pay attention. But I, back in October, towards the end of October, the last week, the guys here with the mini splits were here with the executive director. And they were laughing and giggling in the hallway. I had just woken up and I was getting done doing my laundry, and I went to return the carriage, but because I was still waking up, I forgot to bring my keys. And Kara said she would bring the carriage down for me. But when that happened, the mini split guy who owns the company, I'm pretty sure it's the owner, I've seen him on the website, and he was here telling us about it. He took his phone and lifted it up like he was trying to hide the fact that he was about to take a picture of me. And he took a picture of me, and it made a loud click sound, and the flash went off, and they started giggling, and Kara was laughing, and she said, I saw that, and then they ran into the elevator. And I just wanted to point out the fact that I'm a burn victim. I'm also somebody who survived rape and torture. I have PTSD. I have physical disabilities. I'm also heavy. I'm fat. So I did file a case with NCAD, and if anybody's going to ask why didn't I go through the grievance process, it's because I don't know if the city's aware of this, but you really need to be. There really is no effective, board at the Northampton Housing Authority. It's extremely dysfunctional. Nobody talks. Anytime I've tried to email a board member, it goes straight to the housing manager of my building.
That was time. If you could finish your sentence.
Sure. I just wanted to please stress to the mayor to please not engage in nepotism and have somebody who's going to be on the board who's just going to be like a tail wagged by the dog, or the tail wagging the dog like the board has been, because they just do her bidding, and she's often insubordinate to people who are supposed to be her boss. And
Thank you.
I really would like help with that. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next is Rachel. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, I'm Rachel Simpson. I live in Ward 6. I am a product of the Northampton Public Schools, although it was a long time ago. And I just wanted to voice my support for the hard work that you all have put into the capital improvements program. And I was glad to see what happened at the last council meeting. I think that you all have to make some very tough choices, and I rely on you and Charlene and the mayor as the experts on the budget process to do that, and I wanted to express my gratitude for that. The other thing I wanted to two of the things I wanted to say that I appreciate are the amount of money that's being spent on sidewalks in the upcoming budget, which as I understand it is more than we've ever spent on fixing sidewalks, and I think that's really important. And lastly, I've seen comments about we should make Smith College pay more as part of the pilot program, and I want to make it clear, I don't have any affiliation with Smith, although I did go there, that Smith isn't required, none of the nonprofits here are required to pay anything as payment in lieu of taxes. They do it as a gesture of goodwill, and we can't make them do anything that they are not already doing, it seems to me. That's it. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you. Next is Helen. Your name and city or town, please.
Yes, hi. Helen Seidler. I live in Northampton in Ward 2, and I'm here to ask for the full council support for the resolution supporting the full funding of the Healthy Incentives Program. I'm really pleased that councilors Pastor Clemmer, Maori, and Labarge worked with Grow Food Northampton to put together this resolution, and I think it will be a strong statement, the kind of communication that needs to go from our part of Massachusetts to Boston, that this is really important. Not only is it the right thing to do for people who have limited food access, but it's also right for our farmers who are feeding them. So you've heard all the facts. They've been nicely presented by other speakers. I won't go through that, but I do ask your full and enthusiastic support and acknowledgement that there is real time pressure on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room or on Zoom who would like to speak? Okay, thank you all very much. Next we come to announcements from councilors and the mayor. And are there any announcements? Councilor Rothenberg.
Hello. The timing of this announcement could not be better because there are so many people tuned in thinking about farmers and farming with the HIP resolution. I just wanted to let you all know there was a fantastic ag conference this past weekend. Pie in the Skyberry Farm from Ward 3 with Kristen Sykes and her husband Fred gave a great presentation on the different berries they have, but also the different flowers that they have. And we also recently had a tri-state gathering at the Elks of different farmers. And Grow Food also just hosted a nice meeting between climate activists and farmers. So I'm really happy to see farmers having so much of a spotlight right now. We have a lot of them in Ward 3, and we need to think about the many, many different ways to protect them. And I'm so glad to see so many people reaching out to support them. We'll talk about the rest of the resolution later, but I did want to shout out to the farmers of Ward 3. You've been doing a great job, and I really appreciate the great work you've done as ambassadors this month especially. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Perry.
Alrighty, I just want to say a couple things. One is that right around the corner, February 9th, is the Silver Core Goal over at Smith, John and Green Hall. So it is a fantastic gathering of acapella groups and musicians. So please check that out and support that. And the other thing, I think this will happen before we come back, is Kids Fest. It's coming up. Something I love going to my kids. It starts February 17th for break. So that is going to be at the Academy of Music, and it's another one of the lovely gifts that we have here.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, we come to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda is the minutes of January 2nd, 2025, and 24.187, the appointment to the Transportation and Parking Commission, which received a positive recommendation from City Services on February 3rd, Randy Saylor, to fill a vacancy. Are there any removals from the consent agenda? Councilor Rothenberg?
Remove Randy Saylor.
Any others? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus that removal.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Clemmer and seconded by Councilor Labarge to approve. No discussion on the consent agenda, so roll call, please.
Councilor Duff.
Yes.
I haven't seen Councilor Elkins join yet. So. Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yeah.
Councilor Moulton,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. 24.187, an appointment of Randy Saylor to the Transportation and Parking Commission. Councilor Rothenberg?
Yeah, I just want to make a record, this will be an abstention for Ward 3. I didn't have a chance to speak with Mr. Saylor myself. I am concerned with committees in general that we're not getting quite enough of the sort of variety of perspectives that we're looking for. I really want to see this mayor appoint people who hold strong disagreements with her. I'm a little concerned about that generally. So not being able to do quite enough to talk to Mr. Saylor myself to understand if this is really breaking that mold, this will be an abstention for Ward 3. Thank you.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Perry and seconded by Councilor Moulton. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call please on approval of 24.187.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yeah.
Councilor Moulton,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg,
Stay.
and Councilor Duff.
Yes.
Okay, that passes with 7 yes votes, 1 abstention. That brings us down to resolutions, and the first resolution is 24.186, a resolution to adopt the capital improvement program for fiscal years 26 to 30. This was submitted to the City Council December 19th, introduced January 2nd, and on January 16th, we voted to postpone adoption to today. So it is now on the floor for approval, and I would entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the consent, capital improvement program.
Motion made by Councilor Clemmer and seconded by Councilor Labarge. Discussion. I believe, Councilor Moulton, that you had requested that a city staff person be here for this discussion?
Yes, my recollection is that we had a question about the JFK, the leaking roof at JFK, and we had asked if Tony Kuzniars could be here to address that being in the last year of the 5-year capital improvement program.
Welcome, Tony Kuzniars.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, thanks for having me. Not sure what points to address specifically, other than, yeah, the JFK roof has been on the list for probably 5 years as a placeholder. I think we've just started the process with MSBA this year to get on their approval list and program to work on the replacement. So that will probably take a year. So I think the next capital planning, the JFK roof project will get bumped up. The roof is aging out. It was installed around 1997. So it's just nearing end of life. Requests for repairs have increased. I think there's been talk of dramatic leaks, or that's not really the case. There are a lot of small leaks, that happen throughout the building, small cracks in the membrane, little seams that separate, that kind of stuff. And those are all due to age. So hope that helps. If I can give any more information, happy to.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes, that was helpful, and I understand that the problem seems to be, rather than a few larger leaks, the quantity of smaller leaks throughout the building, and that to me is still an issue that you know, suggests that that we need to move urgently on this. And I understand that you're working with MSBA that would provide some funding for this. Is that correct?
Yeah, the last couple roof projects we've done over the years, MSBA was 55 to 56% reimbursement. I think that was our rate then, and it might have changed by now, but that was what it was.
Okay, well, I certainly would be looking to get that project moved up as you suggest.
Yeah, we're working now with Superintendent Bonner, and then submitting our proposal request through the MSBA now.
Thank you. Mayor Shara.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I was just meeting on this today, and so we will be, I think the council needs to also express a letter of interest to MSBA, so it's going to the school committee, and then it will come to the council to get that process going. But some of the things that were reported about lots of, like, huge amounts of water in bags, that was actually for an issue that didn't involve, that wasn't the roof, Tony, am I right? There was some other,
Yeah,
there was something.
about a year ago or so, it was a roof drain, so it was a pipe that's inside the building that broke apart. So there was some ponding water on the roof, and when the roof drain let go, it dumped a large amount of water into the hallway. It was a matter of fixing the pipe, and then we're pretty much watertight there.
But the MSBA process is starting, and it's a long process, but it should be coming to the council sometime soon.
Thank you. It's really good to note that was the reason for that large volume of water, because it was confusing to me, and I assumed it had to do with the roof directly. So that's very helpful, and I'm glad to hear that this project might get moved up if we can get the funding. Other questions around this issue? Comments? Okay, can we let Mr. Kuzniers go? Thank you so much for coming.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, other areas of the capital improvement program. Councilor Maori.
Yeah, I was interested in my fellow councilors' take on the purpose of a resolution. It seems philosophical, so I've looked through the rules and charter, and I still would like to hear what your interpretation of this, this tradition, or what do you want to call it, this thing that we do.
Councilor Moulton.
Well, I'll offer my opinion on it, Councilor Maori. This, as we've said before, this does not appropriate money. We did that over the course of many hours last month when we appropriated nearly $18.5 million for projects throughout the city to improve infrastructure, buildings, and so forth, and provide equipment, including to the schools. What this does to me is speaks to the issue that that the JFK roof problem is part of, and that's deferred maintenance. And I think that Northampton has had a history of deferring maintenance, particularly in the school department. We heard School Committee Vice Chair Gwen Agnew last Thursday speak to that issue when she was reflecting on her 30 years as an educator in Northampton, and said she observed not a lot of maintenance for the schools. And I think that reached the bottom throughout the city in 2011 when the city's capital fund was close to zero. And we know that deferred maintenance not only doesn't address critical issues for infrastructure, that, you know, whether it's buildings, roads, sidewalks, what have you, that touches nearly every resident of the city, it also leads to increased costs, as Director McCarthy and Tony Kuzniarz made clear last month. So for me, this is an affirmation of the portion of sound financial planning that has put Northampton's finances on healthy ground over the last 13 years to plan in 5-year increments priorities that are well vetted for capital projects. And to not approve a resolution like this would be to return to this practice of deferring maintenance.
Councilor Maori.
Yeah, thank you for that. It does not mention deferred maintenance, and I don't think it would revert back to a practice because it's, you know, an overarching, almost philosophical resolution and not, it has nothing to do with where we're going to spend money in the future. I mean, we're going to have to approve funds next year for those projects that you are speaking of. I was happy to approve the capital projects that we did. My concern is that philosophical issue I brought up earlier, which is that we're making these decisions, and I understood why they were time sensitive, and because of that, I voted to approve them. The ones that we just, you know, approved last meeting, I believe. So, but the philosophical kind of conundrum of approving, philosophically kind of approving our spending for 5 years when we don't have the operational budget in front of us. And often if we get the operational budget in front of us and there's something that we're concerned about, we're told that we've already approved all the capital spending and we don't have that, you know, that kind of wiggle room. So while I'm happy, and to be honest, if I you know, have the opportunity to, if I have the opportunity to be on council and approve timely deferred maintenance projects, I will. I never not. But philosophically, I have an issue with this, and I think I'll be abstaining from approval of this resolution. I think if we had the operational budget at the same time, and I understand the arguments why that didn't happen, but I'm saying that would be a little different. But because we don't, that's where I am at right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to jump in, and then we'll go to Councilor Rothenberg. So I see this as a setting of the council's intention about how capital projects should be spent. And although we have approved most of this year's projects, there's still cash capital and that will come to us with the operating budget. But because we've approved those, we've essentially approved this year's projects. But we can set, if we want to set a different intention for years 2 to 5, this is our opportunity to do so. We can amend this resolution. And as the mayor crafts year 2, which will become the next year 1, then she can take that input into account. And then next year, we can choose to both change the numbers. We can amend the plan, and then we can also reduce any capital orders as they come to us. So this is where we can set the council's intention. And my analysis is that all of these projects have been well vetted, and the projects we see for years 2 to 5, they're not fully fleshed out like the projects in year 1 because they're not yet to be spent, but they seem like good directions to go into. But we have the opportunity now, if we don't agree with that, to modify, and we can vote on that intention if we wish. Councilor Rothenberg.
Thanks. So Councilor Maori, who I'm very fond of. I think you all know that I felt as though the Finance Committee didn't really do enough analysis to the level that I would have preferred. And without that analysis, without that time, and I don't place blame on Councilor Maori, I feel she has a very diplomatic approach, and she offered it to her committee for them to decide. I don't place that on the chair. But I'll speak to her as chair of that committee. You know, we could have taken 90 days on that. We could have done a deep analysis of the way in which we're funding things. We could have asked the finance director to show us, you know, what is the cost of borrowing? How much do we pay in interest versus how much do we make in interest when we have cash on hand? You know, there's lots of analysis that council could have asked for. I got a little bit of information about past capital spending, but as we heard from Director Lascalia in our last meeting, the records really weren't clear about what was encumbered or not, what had a purchase order attached and work done but didn't reflect any spending in the records. So my feeling as someone who's really interested in having the community participate as fully as possible in things like setting budget priorities, setting capital improvement priorities, my feeling is that we need much more information and much more time with it to really be able to say on behalf of our wards or for the at-large councilors on behalf of the city that we really feel this is an alignment and this is in the best interest and this is the best way we could possibly do it. I do feel that as city councilors, we really hold those purse strings, and it's really our responsibility to independently analyze and verify the way in which we conduct our financial transactions. And so, since I don't feel that that has been done here, and there's only so much that I can see as an individual councilor, you know, mind you, the charter review, the new charter, it only allows 6 councilors together to request information, not a single councilor. And I've tried as a single councilor to get what I could, to get a look at the ledger, to get access to Munis, and some of the requests I've made have been granted, I've been given that information, and some of them haven't. Some of them, the mayor herself has responded and said, come back to me with 6 councilors. So, you know, in the coming months, I think everyone should expect that I will be coming forward with some information requests and asking you as 6 councilors to join me in wanting to have more access to information so that we can make more informed decisions on behalf of our ward. But I just can't stress enough, you know, often the press describes me as someone who's so interested in the schools. And really, the schools are just one part of the city operation that I'm concerned about. This is all, to Councilor Maori's part, an interconnected, really, ecosystem of spending and of funding. And I think that she rightly points out the operating budget is intimately tied with the capital spending. And so in closing, you know, I'll just reiterate that my feeling about this budget is that we have been shrinking operating costs, underestimating revenue, overestimating expenses in order to create more free cash and cash that becomes a lot of the funding that we use for capital improvements and future capital improvements tucked into to stabilization funds. And I think there is such fertile ground there for so much analysis. It is so ripe for analysis and reconsideration of our priorities. I can only speak on behalf of Ward 3, but the majority of Ward 3 is really feeling a sense that what the constituents wish for is not necessarily what city management and government is funding first and foremost. Are we happy that there's sidewalk money? Yes. Would we have liked to have so much more of it? Yes. Was there a way forward to do more of it? I think probably so. I do. And so for these kinds of reasons, this will have to be an abstention for Ward 3 because we just don't have enough information upon which to base our decision about this capital improvement resolution. And I think to Councilor Maori's question, what is the purpose of this resolution? It's really to say, do we think that looking forward all these years, this makes sense? And I think we just don't have enough information upon which to make that kind of a resolution at this time. It could be perfectly right. It could be very wrong. I think we just don't know. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Councilor Moulton.
Yeah,
I'll simply say that the city council, the full council and its finance committee over a total of 5 meetings in January was in session for 18 and a half hours. Much of that time was spent on discussing budgetary issues. I would refer anybody who's listening tonight who wants more information to view the mayor's presentation at the January 8th Finance Committee meeting, and or to view her presentations at the January 30th City Council, School Committee, and Smith Vocational High School joint meeting. There's abundance, a wealth of information in those presentations that are available on the city website.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else who hasn't spoken? Counselor Labarge.
Yeah, Counselor Miore had her hand up, so I'm going to let her go, and I'll go after her.
Yeah, I was just gonna thank, Counselor, Bolton for adding up those hours, because I feel like the Finance Committee has put a lot of hours in. I think we put 11 and a half hours into the public hearings in the spring. Thank you for, I think it's good to take a pause and look at that, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Counselor Labarge.
Yes, excuse me. I want to echo what Counselor Rachel Miore just stated. We did put in 18 hours, and a lot of thought was put into the financing here. So, I agree with our chair, a finance committee, of the hours we have put in, and getting the answers that we asked for. Also, too, the meetings that the mayor has presented had a thorough overview of exactly about the money and the situation we're in that last meeting, which was a joint school committee meeting, and also Smith Vocational, and the Board of Trustees, and city councilors. And I think people really need to look at that meeting that was presented. There was a lot in it. But also, I want to say about Councilor Rachel Miore. I can see where she's coming about the resolution. I really do. And it's like, for an example, we had Bridge Street School way back. The roof was done by a contractor. We ended up with serious problems there. I mean, really bad. The police department, same thing with the roof, right? We've had problems with that. That was with lawyers and so forth. Same with Bridge Street School. This money has to be looked at here very carefully. We've heard our mayor and us councilors of concerns of emergencies, and that's what I heard from you tonight, Council Mayor. If something does occur, where's that extra money? Am I correct or not? Councilor Mariore, is that the way I'm looking at that? Yes. And it's like, I agree with you. And it's like, the system is there for 5 years, but maybe we do need to look at changing something there and having that extra money available to move on with something critical coming aboard. I don't know the path, and I think a finance director could really help us with a situation like that also. So that's it.
Thank you. Counselor Dubs.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make a brief statement about how I'll be voting tonight. First I wanted to say that address Council Mayori and Council Rothenberg that I do hear and agree with your reasons for abstaining. I agree that about what you said, Council Mayori, about the resolution being philosophical and somewhat like symbolic.
Thank you. Councilor Clemmer.
Yeah, I just want to go on what Councilor Moulton said. Besides the 18 and a half hours that we've actually been sitting in council chambers and sitting on Zoom, listening to the mayor's presentation and Director Nardi's, we've also, I mean, I can speak for myself, I've spent a lot of hours researching the projects and talking to department heads and reading over the SIP book. So it's not only the time we're here, we have the rest of the weeks that in between meetings to do research and find out about these projects. So I think there's been, for myself, there's been a lot of time, way more than the 18 hours that we've been at the meetings.
Thank you. Anyone who hasn't spoken? Okay, Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes, I just wanted to say to my colleague, Councilor Dubs, congratulations on your great work. And actually, it's true, it's an exponential increase in the sidewalks, and I personally credit you with that. I hope that sort of in a minority coalition, and also with some of the majority, we've been able to support you in that. But you have done a really great job advocating for this, and I think those results are clear, and you should be very pleased with that, and I'm glad that you are.
Any other discussion? Councilor Perry.
Sure. Here there's a cello concert happening upstairs. But I just wanted to kind of echo something. Some of the things that are said. There's been time spent on reviewing these capital improvement projects, not just this year, but for years since I've been a councilor. You know, I've said this before, one of the things I really enjoyed about my time serving the city is getting to know all of the people who are deeply committed to this city. You know, it started with the first tours that we were able to take that were organized for each department, and it's continued over the last few years with my ability to just go and pop into an office or have a conversation with some of the directors and some of the workers there. And you know, a lot of what I see when I read through these capital improvement programs are things that the city needs. You know, most of these things in the capital improvement projects they're not frivolous. You know, Councilor Moulton talked about deferred maintenance. You know, we as people, as citizens, as a family, you know, we don't get everything right all the time, but we're trying. And so I just want to acknowledge all the hours that additionally went in to, you know, everything we see in the book here. It's not just the hours that we spend in either these little boxes or in that council chamber room. It's the culmination of hundreds of hours. And so, again, I want to thank everyone who put in their time, their effort, and I will be supporting this resolution. And I do agree that resolutions are philosophical. You know, that's really all any resolution is figuring that out. And for me, I see this city as a city in the midst of change, and I'm very hopeful as to what this change can be. As again, as I say, as I sit in a room that is built on from our community, you know, in a place where I used to be able to walk around every night and enjoy music, I am hopeful, and I look forward to these discussions, and I will continue to do the work, as Councilor Patrick Clemmer said, outside of these meetings. If I have questions, I know when I ask, and I have been met with nothing but support from every department I have been to. I have, you know, the way that I approach it is that we're all working together. So again, I just want to thank everyone for their time and effort in putting this together. So,
thank you. Councilor Rothenberg.
Thank you. I do just want to speak to one thing that does concern me, that's sort of a pattern in our city council. And people approach this different ways. One way is to say that we've got all the time in the world to get to something, right? And I would say often that's sort of a, President Jarrett, that might be your approach, sort of that, you know, this is a living document, we've got time to come back to it. And another way that we often hear is sort of like, the time has already happened, you know, the time to talk about this was such and such. And usually I would say that's sort of a Councilor Moulton position, or tonight we heard it a bit from Councilor Clemmer and the 18 hours reference, but it does really concern me, because I want to see the time be now. always. You know, I want to see us, where's the often that we said last year we wanted more time to think about? Where's the work thinking about that? I just want to caution us that I see that as an evolving or ongoing really pattern about our council. And as Councilor Maori says, sometimes I want to name that. I think we need to be aware of that. When is the time? The time is now. The time is every council meeting. The time is every day. I understand that for some of you, you think you've taken that time and you've used it. I don't see that. I see that we're sort of either saying we already did it or saying we will do it. For me personally, for Ward 3, we need to step it up. We need to do more.
I would remind councilors that we have the power to make motions, and if there's something that we would like to change, if there's something we would like to introduce, we can introduce when we feel it is the right time. Okay, so Councilor Rothenberg.
Sorry, my son had a little comment there. I just want to respond to that directly, Councilor Jarrett, and I want to call back to my earlier statement that the analytical work needs to be done in order for those kinds of motions to be made. So I hope that wasn't a direct response to me, that we could make a motion right now. I think I've made a clear record that for Ward 3, the information and the analysis isn't here to be able to make those motions. And I'll rest on that. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Councilor Labarge. Yes. Councilor Maori. Abstain. Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg. Councilor Duff. Councilor Jarrett.
Yes. It passes with 6 yes votes and 2 abstentions. All right, thank you. That brings us to our second resolution of the night, 25.214, a resolution calling for full support of the Healthy Incentives Program. This is in first reading, and our practice is for the sponsors to read and then speak to their resolutions. And unfortunately, I don't seem to be able to bring up the resolution as a link from the agenda. Laura, would you be able to share the screen with that up?
Yes, if you just refresh the agenda, I realized I accidentally put a Word document, but I replaced it.
Okay, got it. Great. So Councilors Clemmer, Labarge, and Maori, and would any of you like to go first? And this would be to read the resolution, if you would like to. Councilor Labarge.
Should I go? Okay. Whereas in Massachusetts, the Healthy Incentives Program, HIP, automatically applies to anyone who receives SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, benefits and allows them to receive limited reimbursement when they purchase locally grown fruits and vegetables. And
whereas on December 1st, 2024, the Department of Transitional Assistance, DTA, cut HIP monthly benefits by at least 50% to $20 per household per month, regardless of household size, from a variable $40 to $80 based on household size and
Whereas
okay.
It serves as a critical tool for nutritional well-being and in the fight against food insecurity and hunger, which is pronounced among low-income residents of Northampton and the Commonwealth, including children, families, seniors, and people with disabilities and chronic illness. And
whereas in 2024, nearly 200,000 households in the Commonwealth and 10% of households in Hampshire County benefited from HIP through an increase in their access to healthy local farm foods, and nearly 300 Massachusetts farmers increased their income through hip sales. And
whereas HIP serves to decrease the estimated $2.4 million in avoidable costs related to food insecurity and hunger in Massachusetts by increasing access to healthy foods, and whereas a result of this cut to HIP funding, families across Massachusetts are reporting increased food insecurity.
And whereas vendors at Northampton's farmers markets and farm stands rely on sales that they receive from the support of programs like SNAP and HIP to sustain themselves. And since the cut to HIP began, farmers from across Massachusetts have reported a 60% drop in HIP sales, compelling them to lay off staff and change their business plans to adjust for lowered sales. And
whereas HIP participation is up 19% as compared to last year, and the need for state and local government to support their residents' nutritional security is likely to increase if federal support dries up. And
whereas the Northampton City Council recognizes its duty to advocate on behalf of our constituents grappling with food and nutritional insecurity who rely on these critical state funding programs.
now, therefore, be resolved that the Northampton City Council calls upon Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, Massachusetts Senate President Karen Spilka, Massachusetts Speaker of the House Ron Mariano, Massachusetts Senate Committee on Ways and Means, and the Massachusetts House Committee on Ways and Means to support an additional $10 million in a supplemental budget to fully fund the Healthy Incentives Program to ensure food and nutritional security for the people of the Commonwealth.
be it further resolved that the administrative assistant to the Northampton City Council forward copy of this resolution to each of the individuals and offices named above, as well as to Northampton Mayor Gina Louise Shera and Northampton State Senator Joanne Comfort and State Rep Lindsay Sabadosa.
Great, thank you. Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I'm really taking this resolution at heart. I don't know why this was actually done to these residents here in Northampton and throughout the community. We are looking at SNAP, which is very, very critical, and to decrease the amount of money for the families and their children hits your heart badly, badly. Our farmers were doing and working very well until this decrease has happened here in our city and throughout Massachusetts. We need to get that full funding. This is critical. It is affecting many families of need, many children, people with disabilities, and our seniors. I know, as a counselor, I know who on my ward has SNAP and the need for it. There is many people in the city in every ward who need that SNAP. So we work together, we fight together on this, and get this fully funded, period, period. It's a dire need. We need to help our farmers. They have already laid off staff. They had to decrease their percentage also of their business. We need to look at this resolution very closely of how many people are being affected in our city of Northampton and every ward, and throughout Massachusetts. I will support this 100%.
Thank you. Councilor Maori.
Yeah, so I want to first just thank my co-sponsors and also Elisa Klein from Grow Food Northampton and other folks in our farming community who brought this the idea of a resolution to us, and I just feel so lucky to have such a strong food network here. And if anyone, if the councilors have questions about how that works, it's such a win-win situation for those who are receiving SNAP, money goes back in there, so essentially you're getting healthy food options without it being taken out of your SNAP, your total SNAP money. And for the farmers, they have a reliable, sustainable, predictable amount of customers and to serve through the HIP program. And so it's such a win-win. It's such a beautiful kind of symmetry kind of program. And, you know, I have to say, I'm pretty annoyed with a progressive state. I mean, I understand there's a budget shortfall, so you're going to cut vegetables for children? Like, is this really where we want to cut if our budget is tight? We go for, you know, sustenance for, low-income families and our farmers who are, struggle without it. I think there was a lot of other things that could be cut before that. I mean, I'm hopeful. I know that our representatives and senators have worked really hard and that the funding might be restored. But I just think we need to think about why this is the first thing on the chopping block. I mean, there's still, so it was cut in half. There's still some amount of HIP, but it's, it's half the amount. I just want to also mention a benefit that I haven't seen mentioned before. One nice thing HIP does is it brings an economic integration to our food market, our our farmers market. That, to be honest, I can say this as a low-income person and as someone who receives HIP. It's not usually for people who in the lower income bracket, and so HIP allows recipients to go to farmers markets and be a part of that part of the community, and I think that's really beautiful. So, I'm, just an update that I think that the pressure is working. From what I can gather, we're hopeful that something that will be, some more at least will be restored. I think with the specter of what's going on nationally, food security and food insecurity are going to be, a really big issue. And this is not the thing to cut now because we do not know what's going to be ahead of us, especially for our low income residents. I think that's it. Yes, Councilor Clemmer.
Councilor Clemmer. Thanks. I want to echo what Councilor Maori and Councilor Barge said. And, it's also the quality of the food and the quality of the fruits, of the vegetables that we have here, and being able to get something right off the farm rather than stuff that's been on a truck and sitting in a grocery store and, has chemicals in it too. And, they're really getting more nutrients by eating fresh vegetables. And it's supporting our economy here too. We are a big farming community, and it's a really tough business to be in, especially with climate change. So for them to have a reliable source of income. It's nice to be able to help them, and win-win for everybody. So I'm really glad that, and I want to thank Senator Comerford and Rep. Sabadosa for also pushing for this to get restored. That's it. So I hope it works out and helps everybody involved. And thank Alicia Klein too for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you, Councilor Barge.
I want to thank you, Councilor Clemmer, because I was going to mention Alicia Klein. She has been so helpful with Grow Food Northampton. Very, very valuable Grow Food Northampton. And also our farmers locally in our community. And I am hoping, and knowing Senator Comerford and our Senator Lindsay Sabadosa, urging Laura Healy, this needs to be done. They need to tell her exactly the importance of SNAP. And it is critical for nutrition right down the line. So, I want to thank my sponsors also for working on this, which is something that is extremely valuable throughout the community here with SNAP. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rothenberg and then Councilor Perry.
Thank you
first, I want to thank the sponsors. I also want to thank everyone who wrote into us. As I responded to everyone I got an email from, I was sure that, I am still sure that this whole council is going to approve this. This is one of the great things about Northampton and the City Council, that this is right in line with our values. To Councilor Maori's point, the benefit of this quantitatively, but really qualitatively, for having that access to a market that is otherwise almost a luxury, for many people, is just stupendous. And I can say that as someone who was once a single mom with a baby. The barriers to childcare and the barriers to housing are very high. The barriers to food are not as high, but even still, even between SNAP and WIC, the only way to really access this really fresh, really farm fresh food is through this program. And it's a huge, huge, huge benefit. And it doesn't count against your other food stamp use. So, there's no reason not to go. It's not the only issue facing our farmers also, right, economically. I hope there's going to be more opportunities for us to talk about situations in the meadows that have come to my attention, but I am so grateful to hear from the community that they are thinking so much about our farmers and how much they offer us. I wonder, going forward with resolutions, if we might want to add some kind of a line at the bottom where we're also making sure that all of our regional neighbors are being given a copy of this. I was really grateful to the sponsors for bringing this to my attention. There's truly so much going on that we're worried about right now and that we're trying to figure out how we can help with. This one was not actually even on my radar until you brought it. So I'm glad to hear that it seems like there's progress being made with the people that we named in our resolution, and our state rep and state senator and hopefully the governor. But I also love when we always push together as a region. So maybe we want to make that more of a sort of status quo whenever we're doing resolutions. But I really thank everyone so much for this.
Councillor Perry.
Yes. I will also reiterate my thanks for all the folks who worked in this resolution. And to kind of follow off of Councilor Rothenberg, is that we're really lucky to live in this area for a number of reasons. One of them is we live in some of the best farming land in Massachusetts. Some might say in our region. But I think back to just a few years ago with the flood in 2023. When I was chairing community resources, we had farmers come in and speak about the devastation that happened. And I believe Councilor Elkins talked about how they showed up on tractors. They were so busy working, they couldn't stop working. It hurts to know that after such devastation in the midst of recovery, we're back here hurting farmers again. I'd also like to say that this is kind of an example of the interconnectedness of our society, our community. Taking away one benefit affects not just one group of people. We are a web of folks. Thank you, Councilor Maori, for pointing out that one of the barriers to farmers markets is the price. You can get cheaper food at an Aldi's than you can at a farmers market, but you really can't find that community. We're again lucky to have farmers markets that include music and someone makes popsicles, and it's a very community feeling thing. On another note, I was just recently at Salvo House for an event a couple weeks ago for MLK Day, and I had residents approach me about these issues. Even tonight, I had a few low-income workers come tell me to support this to my face. And also, as Councilor Rothenberg said, I think everyone who wrote in, I do read all of these emails. And so it's just the outpouring of support for this. This is something that I wish we weren't here talking about. It feels like something we shouldn't be talking about, as Councilor Maori said, is how when the budgets are low do we take food from people, basic necessities. So, with all that being said, I wholeheartedly support this resolution, and while it is philosophical, it is important to show where we stand. And I hope we don't have to fight too hard as a community, as a commonwealth, to reinstate some of these benefits. I wouldn't say benefits, these rights to folks.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councilors Maori, Clemmer, and Labarge for bringing this, making such a clear case for why this $10 million should be restored in the supplemental budget. It is inexplicable to me, as Councilor Maori said, why this was cut in the first place. And it's particularly important, I think, for us, for our community, to be making this this statement in support of HIP, because I learned today from doing a little research that according to advocates for farmers, while this affects households across the state, about a quarter of all HIP sales are done in the 3 counties of the Connecticut River Valley, not Berkshire County, Hampshire, Franklin, and Hamden County. So it's important for communities in that area, in that rich agricultural area, to make this statement. And I join with Councilor Rothenberg in suggesting that perhaps we want to alert organizations like CISA and others that advocate for farmers that we are making this statement.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, maybe we could be looking at putting something in the Gazette, get it on the front page, because I think this is critical for people to know about this resolution. And I would not see a problem of this being a request to have that done, so it gets out to everyone in our city.
Thank you. Councilor Maori.
Yeah, I appreciate, as for everyone, it's been a couple weeks that are just head spinning, and this is actually, I didn't really anticipate how moving I think this is to come together and talk about this together, and everyone's so, eloquent. I think Councilor Rothenberg's suggestion is great, and Councilor Labarge, we can certainly forward this to Alex or the editor, but maybe, we could have, I'm happy to amend to add, our food groups here, our food organizations, not groups, to this amendment if you all want to do that. I think I see your point with that.
Is that something that the sponsors would want to work on over the next 2 weeks, and then when we vote on it?
That's a great idea.
Yes. Great. Councilor Rothenberg, yes. And then Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I just wanted to add that I would really like to alert our fellow municipal governments in the region as well. Thank you so much.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, no, I agree. I would like to have CISA and probably Grow Food Northampton with a holistic line coming into and helping us maybe do some amendments here. That's my thing. And some of the farmers in Ward 3 or in the city.
Any other comments or suggestions? All right, well, I will just second what all of the sponsors said. Thank you for bringing this forward, and I look forward to voting on it in 2 weeks, voting yes. Okay, so
Take a quick break.
Yep, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll be back at 7:58. Item on our agenda tonight, that is an update to format of meetings. So this is to revise the decision made at our January 3rd, 2024 organizational meeting, and that decision was to adopt a hybrid format for all regular council meetings with the provision to meet remotely in July and August. And this proposal is that to add that in response to, so this is an option, in response to imminent health and safety concerns, the presiding officer may change the format of a regular meeting to be held by remote participation only with 48 hours notice. So that's excluding weekends and holidays. So I'll say this is, so at our December 19th meeting, we had an initial discussion about concerns about if there were, say, an uptick in infectious diseases, or if there was a major snowstorm predicted, that we currently do not have a mechanism for switching to remote only. And you know, we can see tonight there's only 2 of us here in person, but at least one person has to be here in person to preside, to run the meeting. So what this would do, and this is only for the remainder of the term, would be to allow for that format to be changed at the discretion of the providing officer for imminent health and safety concerns. Councilor Maori and I looked at our rules, and we thought about a more permanent rule change, but we found that the rules regarding remote meetings are presently pretty out of sync with what the COVID era options for remote meetings allow, and the state is about to vote by the end of March, we hope, on more permanent solutions for allowing municipalities to hold meetings remotely. So we wanted to wait for any more permanent rule changes to find out what those final state rules will be. Then we'll look at our rules from that perspective and come with a more comprehensive look at our remote meeting rules, which are kind of dated at this point. So that gives a little bit of background. And yeah, Councilor Maori, do you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I know especially Councilor Labarge is always such a tireless advocate for accessibility and for people with disabilities to be able to join our meetings with the remote option. And so I think, you know, the issue is that, as President Garrett said, we need our rules to be in sync with the state guidelines, so, and those are kind of forthcoming. So at that point, when we know what the state is telling us, I think it'd be great to revisit our rules and look at the issues I know you really care about, Councilor.
All right, so there, yeah, this is a stopgap until that time. Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I have already spoken to Senator Counselor and also with state representatives of Sapadosa. And what I'm hearing is that they both agree about doing hybrid and the choice of also doing Zooming. And it has really been significant with many residents in our city, which you've known, don't like coming down late in the evening to Northampton, and they're using the Zooming, which has really made a significant change. We see more people now at city council meetings coming in by Zooming. And also with health issues, we have counselors that have children and so forth. Sometimes they gotta be there. Husbands are in the hospital, they need to be there. And by Zooming is very, very helpful. So as far as I know, as a counselor, I'm keeping in track with the senators and also with State Representative Sabadosa on it. But I am hearing that all of them really agree about going hybrid along with the Zooming. So far, let's see what happens.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rothenberg.
Thanks, and it is bedtime here, so apologies if the child bursts. I'm going to keep a consistent vote. All the other times that we've talked about going hybrid, or sorry, remote only, my vote has been no, because I really think that in-person access for the public is important. I would be more interested in sort of like the ability to cancel a meeting if not one person could be there. I hate for the public to lose an opportunity to be able to have a physical presence with us if that's what they want. I do like every counselor being able to make the best choices for their health and to set examples for what they think is healthy to be able to be remote. I don't think that that's impinged upon by having one person here. I think that the snow situation is one where maybe then it would make sense to just cancel a meeting. I never feel like losing, good night, I never feel like losing a week or two is really a super critical thing for us, but I feel like the public losing the ability to access us is a bigger problem than having it postponed. So it will be a no for Ward 3, but I understand where you're coming from, and I certainly don't begrudge anyone for voting yes for this.
Councillor Perry.
Yes, I also will remain steadfast in my support of this as a person who works nights and would not be able to do this particular work for our city without hybrid meetings. I think it's important for diversity in terms of people, you know, who could possibly in the future work as city councilors and representatives. So agree that it's great for those with disabilities who can't make it. In terms of the public having access, one of the best things that there are many ways in which folks can reach out. You can't make it in person, you can write a message which will read into the record. You can view these meetings on public access TV thanks to the wonderful folks at Northampton Open Media. The internet is there. You know, I love that there's so many different ways, but I really do think that it's important to continue this hybrid method. It's opened up access to what we do to the public. You know, when we talk about transparency, there's nothing more transparent than everyone being able to have some sort of access in some way to our proceedings. You know, I also love my chances to be there in person with all of my colleagues and sorry, I'm trying to get in and the public. You know, there really is something to be said about having in-person meetings and having that back and forth debate. But I don't want that, I wouldn't say luxury, but I don't want that to make it seem like the only reason why you know, we should move forward as we are. Thank you.
Would anyone who hasn't spoken like to speak to this item? Councillor Dubs.
Yes, I would be in full support of this, and I would also agree completely with Councillor Labarge that it is an accessibility issue, and I think that this makes meetings more accessible. That's really all it does, and that's a great thing. I would say that, you know, we'd all love to meet in person or be in person. I think that we don't lose much. I mean, the public can still engage with us on Zoom. I don't think that we lose that much. I think that people are understanding when there's a health crisis, or, you know, and especially in these uncertain times. We don't know if there's any future pandemic or anything in our future that we might need to go on Zoom only. And I think that having that option is really important for the whole community and for all the councilors, everybody that works in city government. So I'm just full support of it. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Maori, and then, yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, as for councilors like us that served during the pandemic and for years doing remote and had 500, 600 people participate remotely, I'm more concerned about losing the remote option. You know, I think that the public can participate remotely and in a vigorous way. And frankly, we don't know with health and safety issues, you know, how long they might go. And even canceling one meeting potentially means that councilors are facing a double meeting next time. And we all agree that we do not need overly long meetings that we actually cannot attend to the important, you know, items in front of us when we pile on too much on our agenda. So, yes, I'm in full support of this particular. We're going to obviously have more conversations, as President Jarrett said, when we know where the state lands. But in terms of the health and safety call by our, presiding officer, I'm in full support of this.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yeah, I would just note that the public's ability to sort of be a presence in person is different. We don't even have, I believe we don't have, is the public allowed to show their videos when they're remote? I think they're probably not.
During public comment, yes.
During public comment, yes, but we've had a lot of demonstrations. It looked like you had a few people in chambers tonight. We also have some people who, like I said, the first time this came up when we voted on just the plain summer, all remote meetings, I raised my concern at the time about my constituents at Salvo House who don't even have necessarily a great internet access source. So I'll rest on that, but for me, I really like the public to be able to have the option.
Thought I would just share my philosophy as, if this measure would apply if it passes only for the rest of the term. So I'm either going to be making the decision or Vice President Maori in the case when I'm not available. And my philosophy would be that I want us to have in-person meetings as much as we possibly can. I think, like Councilor Perry said, they're really valuable for having that face-to-face. I get to actually look Councilor Clemmer in the eye right now. But there is that threshold, and that threshold would, if we have a major winter storm, if we have a public health, if our public health commissioner recommends that we not be meeting in person, I want to be able to accommodate that without having to hold a special meeting to then vote on that. So the bar is high as far as when this would be invoked, and I just wanted to share where my philosophy on that. Councilor Clemmer, your mic.
Thank you. And I like to look at Council President Jarrett in the eye. But I mean, tonight's the perfect example. We're the only two people here besides the mayor and Alan Wolf. And I mean, I don't understand when some councilors say they don't want the remote option and they're not here. It's kind of a conflict. Maybe I'm missing something though. But it is, it was kind of sketchy out this afternoon, and a lot of councils live in remote areas, and some people have kids and disability issues, and it has been working. So it is a great option to be able to not have to come in if you really feel you can't, or come in if the numbers go up again, or there's some other disease going around that we need to be concerned about. So I am in favor of having the remote option.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. We're talking about we're talking about when there's. I probably would not have made this call just to go all remote for tonight, because I knew that I could make it in. There are a number of people here, but there are storms, certainly.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant. If there's a situation where you felt we wouldn't be able to get here.
Yeah,
like a much bigger storm.
Wouldn't be safe to encourage, or to for at least one of us to come, and if there's some infectious disease concerns, it wouldn't be safe to have a large number of people together.
Yeah, and it's something that would be used with great discretion and very infrequently. But it is a nice option to have.
Thank you, Councilor Maori.
Just one other comment, which is, we don't really, and this just gives us some nimbleness around health and safety issues. But if there are health and safety issues, especially if they are kind of ongoing in some way, an outbreak, I'm sure the public would like their city to be functioning and can keep going and have meetings and not have them be canceled. I think that would be alarming, frankly, for the community if we had a situation where we could meet remotely, but for health or safety reasons couldn't come in, and we weren't able to meet remotely. I think that, so I think we just, there's a lot going on. We've had both health and safety concerns concerns throughout the years, and this just gives us that nimbleness to the end of this session. So.
I would entertain a motion on this item. Okay, it was motion made by Councilor Maori and seconded by Councilor Dubs to add to the language as stated on the agenda. Further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Labarge. Yes. Okay. Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Holton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
No.
Councilor Dove.
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
Well, that passes with 7 yes votes and 1 no. That's the end of our meeting, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Councilor Clemmer and seconded by Councilor Labarge. Roll call, please, on adjournment.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Holton.
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Councilor Dove. Councilor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yes.
And Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Good night, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Councilor Jarrett and Clemmer, for getting out there and being, allowing the meeting to